Maryland basketball should have zero problem beating Syracuse.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I'm also doing work at InsideBlackandGold.net, so make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. Maryland basketball should have zero problem beating Syracuse. So we got a big game on Saturday against Syracuse, one of our last out-of-conference games on the schedule for Maryland basketball. And I think it's a really important one to win. And I think Maryland should have zero problem beating this Syracuse team. I'm glad that we're playing somebody with a little bit of weight. I feel like we've played a lot of these kind of Mickey Mouse games. Like I said the same thing last week. Like we just beat up on St. Francis. And a couple weeks ago we're playing a lot of Mickey Mouse games. I'm glad we're getting back to actually games that matter, games that are actually weighted, games against good players. And Syracuse this year isn't all that great. They're not all that awesome. But for Maryland's resume, it is still important to get a win like this. I think before the season, when we were constructing our schedule, I think we were hoping that our out-of-conference schedule was going to be a little bit stronger. But so far, Marquette, obviously a very good game. We ended up losing. But other than that, the out-of-conference schedule has been a little bit disappointing in terms of how the other teams have performed, because you're taking kind of a risk when you're making these out-of-conference schedules for college basketball, because you want to be able to get enough wins, you want to play enough weight, but you also want to put together a good resume, but you also got to play good teams. It's a hard balance to kind of put together, and Maryland, I think, thought that Syracuse and Villanova specifically would be solid, good out-of-conference games to play and potentially good wins to be able to have, but they just haven't held the same weight that I think Maryland thought that they would. I think when you look at Syracuse's record this year and what they are, they're just not very good. They're 5-5, but they haven't beaten anybody. When you look at their schedule, when you look at who they've played against, they haven't beaten anybody. And 5-5 at this point in the season isn't like a good record to have. Uh, holds a, I think they did a little bit tough start, and I think we want Villanova fans is at the end better of a win for us. They beat Cincinnati when they were the best country according to the ranks. They beat all recently, so you think Villanova back to where and being a team in a pretty good, hopefully for us in the season. Back to the Syracuse game, I just don't think that they're very good, and I don't think they have the talent. I don't think they have the same. I don't think they have the same physicalness. I just don't think they're as good as us in pretty much every category, and that's kind of what how line shows it. I think that's how most people see this game. They see a Maryland team that's better than a Syracuse team, and I think Maryland should have no problem beating this Syracuse team. When you look at going back to their wins and versus losses, Syracuse hasn't beaten anybody. Like I said, they lost to Georgetown, they lost to Notre Dame, they lost to Tennessee, they lost to Texas, they lost to Texas Tech. The only wins they have are against low-level teams like an Albany or against a Cornell or Colgate. Barely beat Colgate. Those are the only types of wins that Syracuse has right now. And Maryland is as good as some of these good teams that are better than a lot of these teams. Like I would say Maryland's in the similar boat as Texas. I would say we're better than Notre Dame. I would say we're better than Georgetown. And Syracuse can't beat those teams. So I think when I look at just do some basic math and do some basic A equals B type of math, you would say Maryland has a pretty good chance that if Cuse can't beat some of these teams, can't beat anybody really on their schedule that has some meaning, and Maryland's better than a lot of these teams that they've lost to, I would do some simple math and saying I think Maryland should have no problem beating Syracuse. Now, you never know with these games. They can turn weird. They can take a different view. They can go in a different direction. There's a million upsets every single year in college sports, in all sports, to be honest, college football, college basketball, professional sports. So you never know what can happen. But I just think when I make a basic prediction, I think KenPom has it projected as a Maryland 11-point win. I think when I make a basic prediction of where I'm expecting the spread to be and all these different things, I think Maryland should have no problem beating this Syracuse team. I watched the Syracuse team play, and I don't think they have a lot of talent right now. And it doesn't help that their best player, J.J. Starling, is out with a hand injury, who clearly was by far their best player, was their playmaker. He's been out since the Cornell game, and he's what kept them in a lot of these games. They needed overtime to beat a Youngstown State. They needed overtime to beat them. And let me tell you, I don't know if they win. I don't know if they beat Youngstown State without J.J. Starling. And he put up 38 points in the second OT win. Like, they needed him to be able to win that game. He's been their offense all year, but he's been out for a little bit. And they look even worse without him, which is expected. He averaged 19.8 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game this season. And so a Syracuse team that wasn't that great to begin with, losing their best player, I think bodes well for Maryland. And that makes it really difficult for a Syracuse team that already didn't have a ton of offense, didn't have a ton of scoring, is really lacking, I think, some key top-end talent. It makes it a lot harder for them to win a game like this when their best player, J.J. Starling, is out. And so I really believe that Maryland should be able to. I think that's a big reason why I think Maryland should be able to win this game handily. And I think we saw that right after they lost him against Tennessee. They lost by 26. To be fair, Tennessee is the number one team in the country, but 26 is a lot of points. And then they lost to Notre Dame as well. And I don't think of Notre Dame as a basketball powerhouse right now, and neither is Georgetown, who they lost to. And they're relying on a freshman who's actually from the DMV area that I wanted Maryland to get. And I thought Maryland had a chance to get this kid for a little bit. And he would have been a nice ad, but I think I prefer Derek Queen, and he plays the same position as Derek Queen. Donnie Freeman, the freshman power forward type, 6'9", went to St. John's in the DC area. They're going to him for a lot of their offense, averaging 13.4 points per game. And he leads the team in rebounds too. And I think that plays well to Maryland. I think when they have to rely on a freshman, Donnie Freeman, who's a really talented player, I think that he's going to be able to develop into something special. But I still think he's a bit raw in what he can become. He has a ton of tools, and the way he moves at his size is really special. But I think he's not even close to how good he's going to be. And I think what also is going to go well for Maryland, and I think a big reason Maryland's going to win this game handily, is Syracuse doesn't shoot the ball well. When you don't have a ton of talent, when you're not as talented, the way to get back in these basketball games, the way to cover The way to win some of these games, the way to come up with some of these big wins is to have 3-point shooters. You see it in March Madness when it seems like there's some of these big upsets. It's because a shooter usually. It's because the team shoots the ball really well, and they have 5 guys on the team that can shoot the lights out. They might not be able to jump very high. They might not be able the most explosive guys in the gym, but they can usually shoot the ball at a really high level. And Syracuse can't really shoot the ball this year. They're pretty bad. They're kind of Maryland-esque last year. They're second to last in the ACC at 27.1%. And so they're last in the conference in 3-point makes per game at 4.9. So they're only making about 5 threes a game. They're only getting about 15 points a game from making threes. So clearly that's not really helping them at all either. So I just think when you combine that, their best player who averaged nearly 20 points, who was their by far their leading scorer, is out and's been out for a little bit, and they're having trouble adjusting without him. And then they also are relying on a freshman to carry a lot of the load. And what I've seen them do this year compared to what Maryland's done this year, in their poor shooting, I don't think Maryland basketball should have any problem beating this Syracuse team, to be completely honest. Do we have enough players? Do Maryland football, does the program right now have enough potential players that are talented enough to step up into big roles potentially next year? I'll talk about that next. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot or what you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute, like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I've been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on the tickets right at the start of an event and even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So I've been pretty out there that I'm concerned right now about Maryland football, and I think a lot of people should be. I don't know if we have enough. I don't know if the roster is right. I don't know how things are going to look in the future. And I kind of want to go through it because every single year, every single team loses guys. You lose seniors, you lose transfers. That's just today's college football. You're going to lose a lot of players. But my question is, does Maryland have enough guys that can step up? The best teams recruit well. They have enough players that can step up. And I don't know if we have enough guys right now that can step up into bigger roles. I do think that there's a lot of time left. I know there's a lot of time left to add guys in the portal, to continue to get guys and all those different things. But I'm still don't know if Maryland football has enough younger players that Loxley has recruited that I feel good about stepping up. So I want to look at the roster and go through every position. And I didn't pre-do this, so we're going to see exactly. But I want to kind of see, do I feel good about them stepping up into Core a little weird with it. More and then as well, Washington come together. I think I think the league's talented. I think MJ Moore out. MJ Morse didn't ton when he got to Albany last year when I maybe show more. And Nico Washington's young. I don't know how that's going to go down in the Big Ten. So I'll say the quarterback position. Den position right now, he's the only guy that I feel has any type of weight. You got to have a lot more depth there. I don't think that's. I do think was good enough to step into a big role. And then the receiver position, Octavian Smith, Shalik no. I don't see an alpha in that room. I think they can each step up, and I like their talent, but I just don't see a lot of guys that are big difference makers, guys that trust. The offensive line is interesting. Bao Alu Bao has a chance to come back and improve. Same with Alan Heron. We'll see what happens. Josh Kronberg is gone. I think those two guys hopefully can get better if they're going to play again this year. But I do really like some of our young guys potentially stepping up. Ryan Howerton, Therese Davis, Michael Hershey. I think they all have a chance to step into roles. And I do think they're talented. So I do think there's some talent there. And then the running back room, Roman Hemby's gone now. So Nolan Ray and Williams, the freshman, I think those two guys do have a chance to spark if the offensive line is good enough. The defense is where it gets weird. Do we have enough young guys on the defense, do I feel like, for us that can take a step up next year, that can play at a high level next year? You look at the defensive line, I don't see a ton. Neo Avery, I thought was going to be good, hasn't showed me a lot. Other than that, Dylan Fontes, I think, is decent. Dimitri Nichols was a freshman last year. Le'Veon Johnson, maybe. Trey Reddick, I thought, looked really good at times. I think he won the Freshman of the Year at their awards ceremony, but he's more of a linebacker. I don't see a lot on the defensive line, and it's scary. I don't see a lot of guys that are going to come in for Donnell, Jordan Phillips, Tommy King, and Basote that can step up. Linebacker room, I feel pretty good about it. Like I said, Kiari James, Trey Reddick, Michael Harris, Caleb Wheatland's still there. I think all those guys are talented. Corner room, I think we lose just about everybody. It feels like that was a starter, but they all weren't that good last year. But I think Kevin Hughes and Braden Lee are going to have something to say next year, and I think they potentially could step up into roles. Overall, safety room, I don't really see anyone. I think we're going to have to bring in someone. I like the freshman Messiah Dalhome that's coming in, but I don't see a ton. I just think when I go through the roster, and I hope this exercise helped you guys, I see guys that have the potential to step up. But is it going to be good enough to get back to where we want to be? I just don't know. And it's going to come down to how well Mike Loxley has recruited, how well he's put this roster together, and how well he uses the portal. But right now, quite frankly, I just don't think it's where we want it to be or where we need it to be for Maryland football right now. Let's go back to the Maryland versus Syracuse games. What are some of the storylines I'm going to be looking at for Maryland basketball? We'll talk about that next. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff Kickoff Show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our matchup of the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. So some storylines of this game. I want to start with the Maryland side of things. Deshaun Harris-Smith, how much does he play? The coaches only played him 5 minutes last game, and that was second lowest on the team. Even the walk-on Ben Murphy got more time than Deshaun Harris-Smith did. And that's one of the questions I have going into this game. How much does Deshaun play in this Syracuse game? Because I thought maybe he could be something meaningful off the bench this year, but I think the Terps coaching staff might be looking at him as a guy that just might not have much of a role. Could go slowly into not playing at all. If you look at his shooting stats, he shot the ball all summer, and his stats have gotten worse. His minutes have gone down, obviously, because we brought in Rodney and Gillespie and Seltzer Miguel. So now he's coming off the bench, but his 3-point percentage went down, which is hard to do from last year, where he was a 20% 3-point shooter last year. He's 15% this year. He's 50% from the line, which he just can't do. He does some other stuff well, but it's hard for the Maryland staff to play him if he can't shoot the ball. He can't shoot free throws, especially. It's hard to have him in the game. And so one of my storylines headed into this Cuse game was that like a one-game kind of weird thing. There's something we don't know about behind the scenes, and he just didn't play a lot that game, or this really is what's going to happen with Deshaun. Is he really not going to play a lot of minutes? I think that's something I'm absolutely looking at for Maryland basketball, and I'm really interested in seeing what the deal is with that. We'll see what happens with that. And does Malachi Palmer take his minutes? Does Jalen Young play a little bit more minutes off the bench? Does I want to see Jordan Geronimo's role tomorrow. I think that's something that's going to be interesting. How much does Geronimo play now coming back from injury and being back? But is Deshaun Harris-Smith in the rotation? Is he out? Is he back to playing like 15 minutes per game and hopefully playing well? That's a real big thing that I'm going to be looking at. Another one I'm going to be looking at is a matchup of the two freshmen, Queen versus Donnie Freeman kid. Both of the two highly talented freshmen. I think both are extremely talented. I think Donnie Freeman, a DMV kid himself, I'm telling you, a 5-star kid. He's probably wishing he went somewhere else at this point. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But Donnie Freeman's really talented, and right now he's probably their best player. Like I said earlier on the podcast, he's a 5-star ranked 15th in the class, and he probably has something to feel at. Derek Queen's been getting a ton of hype. Derek Queen's been putting up a ton of numbers. I want to see between those two guys who has a better game. Freeman has less, I feel like, kind of less balance on his team, so he might go for more numbers, but still Derek Queen averages more than him in terms of points and everything. But so he might be able to go get more because he's really the guy now with the JJ Starling kid out. But I think Derek Queen has proven himself this year as a better player. Maybe I'm biased in saying that, but I do believe that Derek Queen has proven himself as the better player. I think something else I want to see, Seltzer Miguel, he confuses me. I'm still trying to figure him out. Is he going to be really good this year and like a guy that could give us 20 any night with Gillespie, with Rodney Rice? Or is he kind of the weak part of our starting lineup? I still don't know. Because I think he's a guy that if he's playing at the level that he did last game where he had 24 points or something like that, if he's playing at that level, Maryland reaches a new ceiling. That's why I said I'm still trying to figure out Maryland's ceiling as a program. I don't know how good we can be, but he's a guy that if he continues to play well and he plays at a high level and he shoots the ball effectively, Maryland's ceiling goes up a lot. And so I'm interested to see how he plays coming off a really good performance. Can he continue to play at a high level? And I want to see Julian Reese stay out of foul trouble. Please, it's better. We're better when he's on the court. We're better when him and Queen are on the court. And I want to see them both stay out of foul trouble because I think Maryland plays a lot better brand of basketball when both of those guys are out there. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.